You loved playing a paladin in D&D 5e, but you're starting a Pathfinder campaign and you see, okay, in this system it's called the Champion. Well, I can't wait to play a divine warrior who can just bring the hammer down and explode for incredible damage. Smites don't exist in Pathfinder. I hate to break it to you. The Champion is actually one of the most defensive classes in the game, and until the recent release of the Guardian class, Champion was the de facto tanky, unkillable character in the system. But that doesn't mean it's easy to play. Sure, you might be able to just walk up and take hits, and that's what you do, and you'll have decent success, but the Champion is actually a lot more layered than that, and the deeper you look, it gets a lot more layered. In fact, the final tip of this video opens up such a massive layer for the Champion that I actually wouldn't even recommend it to new players. It's not something that you have to do, but once you do it, the class becomes a lot more flexible. So let's talk about it. Welcome to how to play the Champion in Pathfinder 2e that I'm going to be breaking down into 5 very helpful tips to focus on and get you started to get the most out of this class, because the Champion is incredible. Except for when it's not. I want to give a huge shout out to all the members of the No Not One's Patreon page right on this list. If you want to support the channel, you can by clicking the link in the description, pledging for $1, $5, $10, or $20 a month. They all do the exact same thing, they just support me a little bit more. Without them, I'm just a man talking to a camera making less money. That's the joke. I don't script these, but I got through it in one take. Let's go! So let's get the easy tip out of the way, the tip that I've been saying for literally 5 years now, but I'm never going to stop saying it because it's never going to stop being true. The first tip for champions, especially new players, is that your armor class will not let you avoid that many hits. It will allow you to avoid that many crits. Let me paint you a picture. You're a level 7 champion, and you just got that tasty proficiency increase from trained to expert in all armor. Before the Guardian existed, this was the fastest any class could get up to expert armor proficiency. So you're level 7, and for the sake of simple math, we're going to say you're wearing an unenchanted breastplate. Just a +5 armor class breastplate, 4 from the armor class, 1 from your dexterity, +10 from base armor class, +11 from your level plus proficiency. That's 26 armor class right there, 28 if you've got a shield raised. Now, not all champions need to use shields, we'll actually be covering that in a little bit, but a lot of champions do prefer the shield for damage mitigation and AC increasing. 28 armor class at level 7. If you've got an equal leveled fighter on your team, their armor proficiency is still trained. That's a net -2. Let's assume they're using a two-handed weapon, so they don't even have a shield. That's another -2 compared to yours, running an AC of only 24. This means if an enemy, let's say, hits you at 28 AC, let's say they have a bonus of +18 to hit on the Stegosaurus, well, all of a sudden, yes, it does hit you, the champion, on a 10, but it also hits that fighter with a 24 AC on a 6. That's already crazy. You just get hit 20% less often than the fighter, but it doesn't stop there, because not only does it hit the fighter on a 6, it critically hits the fighter on a 16 to 20. 25% of the time, that fighter is getting critically hit by this Stegosaurus. Meanwhile, you the champion, 28 armor class with a +18 to hit, yes, it hits you on a 10, but it only crits you on a 20, which would be a crit anyway. All of a sudden, yes, you take hits 20% less often, but you're only getting critically hit 5% of the time. This is why armor class is so important in Pathfinder. It's easy to look at a champion and say, he still hits me on a 10. That's insane, I get hit 50% of the time. But once you look at the critical hits, the amount of damage you're going to take on average shoots down. Plus, this isn't even considering the multiple attack penalty. If that Stegosaurus attacks twice, that second hit at +13, that only hits you on a 15 or higher. Meanwhile, that fighter is still getting hit on an 11 to 20. AC is not about not getting hit, it's about not getting crit. So when you're playing a champion and you keep taking normal hits, you're doing your job right. If you're gonna complain to the cleric who's not healing you. This next one might seem obvious to people who know the game, but new players might have trouble understanding the champion's aura. It's easy to look at their reaction and say, oh, if I'm next to my ally, I can reduce the damage they take. That's what I do. But that's not exactly how it works. You see, the champion's aura exudes 15 feet around them in all directions, and in order to activate it, the ally and the creature hurting your ally just need to both be in that aura. So yeah, if you're next to your ally and you're both next to an enemy and the enemy hits your ally, yeah, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage they take. But if you and your ally are both flanking the target and it's a normal, like medium-sized target, your ally is still within 15 feet. Even though you're on the opposite side of this enemy, you can still use your reaction to reduce the damage they take. And remember, this goes in all directions. If you're standing in the middle, there's an enemy 15 feet away from you to the left, and an ally 15 feet away from you to the right. Well, guess what? If they hit your ally with a ranged attack, they're both inside your aura, you can still reduce your ally's damage. So pay attention to 15 feet around you. That is where your reaction can be used, as long as the person attacking and the ally being attacked are both inside of it. The third tip is something I mentioned earlier. The champion may be inherently a defensive class. That doesn't mean you have to use a shield. Yes, it's implied. They get shield block right off the cuff. It is heavily incentivized for you to use a shield because of full armor class. But there are plenty of champion builds out there that can make use of other weapon types. There's a feat for the Justice Cause that allows them to use their reaction to attack with a ranged weapon as long as it's within 15 feet. And especially speaking of the Justice Cause, they are the subclass that can make the best use of multiple different types of weapons. But think about a Justice champion with a Great Axe. You're reducing the damage your ally takes, and then you're attacking as a reaction with a 1d12 weapon. If you're using a one-handed weapon and a shield, you will never bypass 1d8 damage. But there are champion builds that want ranged options, or that want to take advantage of high damage. If you're flanking with an ally as a Justice champion, they take a hit, you use your reaction, they take less damage, you're already flanking with this ally, so the enemy is off guard against your 1d12 Great Axe. That is beautiful. You do not have to use a shield to be an effective champion. In fact, the shield doesn't affect your reaction's damage reduction at all. Your own armor class doesn't matter aside from the point of keeping you, the champion, alive. You are still good at being a supportive frontliner, and with using a two-handed weapon or a ranged weapon, you'll either be dealing more damage or have better access to different types of damage and opportunities with a ranged weapon. Nice thing about a ranged champion is that you can attack from the back line or attack until the enemies come up to you, and then you can step up to them and still use your ranged weapon, or if you're feeling it, swap to a melee weapon. There's a lot of different build opportunities for champions, and don't assume you have to use a shield every single time. My fourth tip is very niche, but it is something that is worth keeping in the back of your head. As a reminder, when you create a champion, you pick a deity, or deity. I'm 30 years old, I don't know which one's correct. When you pick a deity, it gives you an option for sanctification. All this means is that if you may be, you can choose to just not sanctify. You are a champion whose weapon attacks are not inherently divine, but chances are you're going to want to sanctify to your deity's, it's not called an alignment anymore, holiness, I guess? And there's a reason you want to sanctify towards your deity. This is because if you are sanctified holy or unholy, all strikes you ever make forever as a champion gain the associated trait. If you are wholly sanctified, all of your strikes forever have the holy trait. Why does this matter? Well, specific enemies interact with the holy trait, and usually this comes in the form of a weakness. Demons, devils, even diabolic dragons all have a built-in weakness to holy effects. And that means your strikes, if you deal 1 point of damage to these targets, they're taking bonus damage equal to their weakness. That is just plus 10 damage on some creatures on all of your strikes against them forever. So especially if you're playing in a campaign where you're fighting fiends, don't forget about your sanctification. It can make a huge difference in the amount of damage you deal in one encounter. So this fifth tip, very simple to explain, but like I said at the beginning of the video, it sort of peels the class open into an infinite number of possibilities, which is not great for a new player, but I think it's important to talk about for the champion in a video like this. And this is that champions have a lot of dead feat levels. What do I mean by dead feat levels? I mean you level up and the options available to you are not interesting or don't synergize with your character in any way. I personally believe champions are better than they were 5 years ago, but they still host one of the weakest feat pools of any martial class in Pathfinder 2e. So my final 5th complex tip is to not forget about archetypes. A lot of people playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition use something known as the free archetype variant, but not all tables are using it. And remember, even if you're not using free archetype, you can still take archetypes on your character. The blessing of the champion, no pun intended, is that their base stats, their attack accuracy, their defenses, their hit points, their saving throws, they're all so good, they don't need to rely on their feats to stay and remain good. What you can do instead is completely pivot your character into a specific archetype. If you're going to play a two-handed champion, consider picking up the Mauler archetype for some incredible fighter and barbarian feats that will enhance your opportunity to deal damage with your two-handed weapons. Maybe you want to take something like the Blessed One for even more focus points. For that would probably be a bad idea because you get lay on hands anyway. But there's so many archetypes. Literally, I think there's over 200 archetypes right now. So that's why I say this is so complicated, because if you take this advice, you're going to be doing a lot of research. And I mean a lot of research. I've tried to make videos and I've thought about doing an every archetype ranked forever in Pathfinder. I haven't because there's so many. And that video would be like 4 hours long. But if you're playing a champion and you're looking at all your feats and you're thinking, I don't want any of these. None of these are interesting. None of them synergize with the champion character I have built. Look into archetypes. The champion is probably the strongest, solid base class in the game, with, makes sense, some of the weaker feat selections to offset their inherent power. But that means that they can make the most out of almost any archetype. Imagine being a champion in full heavy armor, casting wizard spells because you took the wizard archetype. There's no rules in Pathfinder that say you can't cast spells in heavy armor, so have fun with it. And there you go. Now you should have a little bit better idea of what to get into when playing a champion beyond just man with shield. This video helped you out. I'd appreciate it if you left a like and left a comment. Do you have any other advice in the comments for people that I might have missed here? Anything else big for the champion that you would tell a new player what to worry about or what not to worry about? I love hearing from y'all and what you have to say about these classes because they're very deep. Pathfinder is a very deep game and it's tough to cover all of that in 15 minutes. I want to give another huge shout out to all the members of the No Net One's Patreon. Link in the description if you want to pledge and get your name on that list as well. Thank you so much for helping me out and let me keep doing what I'm doing. Every time I talk about the patrons, I stutter. Do I have a crush on you? That's parasocial. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, No Net Ones.